All right, here we go.
Welcome back to another episode of the Reyes Reflection Podcast. Free to subscribe, as always, wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, follow me on TikTok and Instagram at I'm Nathanael Reyes. Now, my next guest could be described in many ways, so I'm going to do my absolute best to quickly describe my guest. A singer and songwriter, which you can check out some singles such as Stargazing and Breathing Underwater. A cowboy, and I see the hat, which I can't wait to get into that. My personal favorite, a girl dad, and a contestant of Season 23 of The Voice. So without further ado, please welcome NOIVAS. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, man, thank you for having me.
Of course. Now, NOIVAS, that is a stage name, correct?
Yes, yeah, it is a stage name.
Nice. Hey, and it's your first name backwards, right?
Yeah, so my name is Savion.
Yep.
And to kind of get into how I came up with it, I've been out of showbiz, I guess you could say, in the singing world for a little over 6 years now. And so I was like, you know what? I feel like I want to come in with something new, something different.
Yep.
And because I've evolved, I'm a different person than I used to be. And so I was like, yeah, I could go by my first name, but I'm like, you know what? No, I want to do something different. I want to be different. I'm a new person. I'm an evolved person. So I said, you know what? I'm going to flip my name backwards. And I was coming up with different ways to say it. And like Noiva just kind of stuck out the most for me. And I was like, I like it. Like no one has that. And it kind of stands out. So I'll stick with that. So that's how I came up with it. And of course, I have to consult my partner because she has to be my main approval for everything.
Of
and
course.
She heard it and she was like, I love it. That's
Yep.
perfect. And so I was like, all right. Let's
So
go.
she gave you the stamp of approval. So it was all set. So,
Exactly.
I realized I couldn't do it cleverly with my name because it'd be like Leanne Nathanael. So I like that you were able to get a decent one at that. But
Oh yeah, and then, it's funny. I've had some people from Brazil actually reach out to me, and they're like, "Do you know your name in Portuguese means bride?" And I was or fiance, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool."
Yeah.
I didn't really realize it, but I actually looked up the French definition.
Yeah.
And I was like, I love that version.
What's the French one?
Yeah, so in French it means I will not go.
Oh, I love
And
that.
so I was like, that's cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
I love it, and now it's adapted to who you are, and I like that you're able to put your own spin on it, and I'm glad that you were able to consult with your partner, and now it's stuck and it's resonated. I do want to start with this. So you're wearing the cowboy hat. So in honor of your cowboy life, okay, I have some jokes for you. Are you ready?
All right, let's hear it.
All right. How did the cowboy know where his cattle were without looking?
Ooh. All right, let me hear it. I'm trying.
Right.
I have an idea, but I'm like, it's probably gonna be wrong. Let me hear it.
He heard them.
All right, I was gonna say he heard them. I should have said it.
You had it. You had it. Yeah, right. Hey, here's another one. All right, ready? I think these next two you should be able to get. What illness can cowboys catch from riding a wild horse? All right, I'll give you a clue. It's with your lungs.
It's with your lungs.
Yep. So a disease or an illness with your lungs.
Oh man, what would this be? Let me think about it real quick.
Okay.
All right, illness with the lungs.
Coughing.
Oh man, there's so many with that though.
That is true.
All right, let me hear it.
All right, bronchitis.
Oh man, I should have said bronchitis. Oh, see, all right, okay, I'm gonna guess the last one. I'll guess the last one.
See the
I
issue.
I had it, and I should have said it.
See,
Dang it.
the issue with these type of jokes is sometimes you overthink them, right? Yeah, you do.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so last one. Ready? What do
All
you
right.
call a happy cowboy? And now here's your clue: a candy. There you go. But not a candy
What do you
bar.
call a happy cowboy?
Yep.
A happy cowboy.
Yep. It's a candy, many flavors, little pieces of them.
Ooh. Okay, let me think.
All right, I can't.
I don't want to overthink it.
Nope, I cracked myself up with these.
All right, let me think about it. I just want to really. No, it's not a Tic Tac.
Nope. But you're on the right path. There's many flavors: blue raspberry, green apple, cherry.
Oh, I got it.
Let's hear it.
I knew it. I should have said it first. A Jolly Rancher.
You got
Damn.
it. There we go. I love it.
Yes, that's a good one.
There
I like
you go.
that one.
There you go. I tried. I saved the best one for last. So
That's a good one. Yeah, I got to tell that one to my dad.
I love it. I'll be here all week. All right. So before we get into your experience on The Voice and things like that, I want to talk and learn more about you as a person. So you live in Hutto, Texas. Is that correct?
Yes, I live in Hutto.
Is that where you were born and raised?
So I'm actually originally from Jasper, Texas. I wasn't born in Jasper. I was actually born, ironically, on an island in Texas.
Oh.
Yes, Texas has islands. Some people don't realize that. But yes, I was actually born in Galveston, Texas.
Okay.
And but I was raised in Jasper, Texas, which is like southeast Texas, right? Like literally right along the border of Louisiana.
Oh.
And a lot of my mom's family is from Louisiana. My mom is not from Louisiana per se, but we do have a lot of family in the Louisiana area as well. But yeah, so I'm from Jasper, but I went to college and met my partner in, actually, I met my partner in Jasper. Crazy story for that one. I could save that one for next time we talk. It's a crazy story, but I grew up in Jasper, and then I went to college in Waco, which a lot of people know Waco because of the Branch Davidians and the craziness that happened with that in the 80s.
Yep.
But went to Baylor University there and met my partner and ended up moving to Austin because of her, because that's where she wanted to set her practice as an attorney. And then and basically she gave me an ultimatum. That's a whole story too. And then I moved we kept moving further north of Austin. And then we started going more east. So now we're in northeast Austin technically, but that's Hutto. That's how we ended up here, because we thought it would be a great place to raise our kids. And we have a lot of land and a lot of place to like for them to grow up and roam all around. So, and there's a lot of different families and people who also have small children as well, so they'll be able to grow up with other kids around them.
Nice. So it's a smaller, tight-knit community, things like that.
Exactly.
Yep. Which is what every parent envisions they want their children to grow up in. So
exactly. Yeah.
I think that's beautifully said. So growing up as well, I do want to start with this. I think your life is a direct representation of strength and never quitting. And the reason why I say that is because, I've done some research. I'm aware that you have an older brother that has passed away. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you were sharing some stories on the show about how your father grew up in tough times, and so did your grandfather. So I just want to start by saying that I think that you are a direct representation of positivity and strength, because even just these first 10 minutes that we've been chatting it up, like you've been nothing but high energy and just a really light. And so I do want to mention that I think that that's very commendable. And so I'm thankful that you're able to show that as well. And it's just very radiant. But as I
Wow,
said,
thank you so much. I
of
really
course,
appreciate that.
of course. So you did mention in the episode that your father grew up in a time where there was blatant racism and segregation. What qualities did your father pass on to you from those experiences?
Wow, that's a really good question. And it's so funny because I actually did like a little podcast with my dad for him to tell a couple of stories and then tell like how he got to where he is and how what things that he taught us in order for us to be more positive and to see things from a deeper and more introspective perspective.
Yep.
And that's something that I wanted to do because I want my kids one day to unfortunately, I've already been through, some tragedy, especially losing my brother, and a couple of years ago losing my grandmother to cancer, and a couple of other things, that I've dealt with, depression and mental illness and things like that. So the way that I see it, that I learned the most from my father is one of the sayings that he was taught when he was growing up on the farm in Mississippi. Back then, and majority of African American culture, specifically in the South, majority of people grew up and raised their own. They raised their own animals, and then they had gardens, and they were self sustaining because back then you couldn't really go to stores, and
Right.
you didn't have the convenience of all of those things.
Yep.
And my father was the oldest of 14,
Oh my goodness.
the oldest boy of 14 children,
Wow.
and of course, a lot of them didn't come until after he had left home and stuff as well.
Yep.
My grandparents were busy, but they really the thing that my father really taught me the most is a saying. And actually, just so I can get it right, I always keep it in my notes. Let me go ahead and get it real quick
Of course.
because
Yeah.
I want to say it right because he always gets me on one part. Here you go. But yeah, he always gets me on one part because I only usually say one part,
Yeah.
but he's like, no, you have to say the whole thing. And so the whole thing he says is once a task is just begun, never leave until it's done. Then whether the task is large or small, you do it well or not at all. And that was always something that my father and my mother really taught us was that if you are going to do something, you make sure you do it well and you finish it till the end.
Yep.
Because back then on a farm, you had to get things done, and if you didn't, you're not going to eat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's why he taught us those things and gave us that perspective. And so in everything that I try to do, I make sure that I do it as well as I can do it
Yep.
and put as much gumption and strength and perseverance into whatever I do. And I'm so thankful that I had a father who really taught us that. And then also thinking about what he grew up in and where he grew up. I mean, I can't even fathom being the only, especially in that time where it was blatant racism, and like being the only black kid in an all-white school.
I know. Yeah.
And my father was that person. He was that kid to go up in the middle of central Mississippi, and when freedom of choice just got passed, and he said, you know what, I want to go to the white schools because they have everything that we don't have at the black schools.
Yep.
And so he made that decision. He was actually going to do it with some of his friends, but his friends ended up backing out because their parents were afraid.
It's
But
scary.
my grandfather, that was something really great about my grandfather too. And I got to learn before he passed away is that he always challenged his children to always go out of the norm and do things that, other people didn't do, because he felt like that was going to teach his kids to be stronger and to be better than the life that he had.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's something that I, as a parent, really want to showcase for my own children now, and really give them that perspective and teach them that perspective. That's why I want them to know what my father did and all the things that he taught.
Yeah.
Because that's something that, that's history. It's history.
It's something to be proud of too.
Exactly. And it's something to be very proud of. And so that's really that. There's a lot more that he taught. I'll tell you another one is always being healthy and always eating healthy. That's something that he always taught us too.
Yep.
I still remember, and I used to be so mad when he did this, but now I really appreciate him for it, because now I'm very health conscious and like always look for better ways to be, to strengthen my body, because one day your body's gonna give up on you.
Mm-hmm.
If you get old enough to live that long. But he always would make us run at least 3 times a week. Right. And it would be like a mile. And we lived on this, we lived on a ranch, and we had this long dirt road that went all the way, down to different homes and then back. And it was crazy because my dad measured it. It was like that long dirt road from all the way to the end of the road, all the way back to our house was exactly it was like 1.1 miles. He
measured it. If you're
he measured it. So he was like, all right, going there and back.
Yep.
Every it was like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And we would do it every week. And I would just be like, oh my God, here we go. Freaking run today. And so, but now I appreciate that, because what he was teaching us is that your body is a temple. It's something that you're supposed to take care of. Mm-hmm. And the healthier you are, the stronger your body will be in order for you to survive and live through things. And I think that's one of the reasons why I have the strong voice that I have, because he made sure that I had great lung support with all that running. And he made sure that, we always ate vegetables with whatever meat we ate. We always had to have vegetables with it. So, and it's so funny because my kids, oh my gosh, especially my daughter, right? My oldest daughter, she can now eat vegetables and things. She loves veggies. She loves broccoli. She loves cucumbers. She loves tomatoes. And being able to pass all of these things down, to my own children, and kind of get that legacy that my father taught is it's just something that it blows my mind every day that, I can look at those things and be appreciative of it.
Absolutely. And it's strength. It's a trickle down effect of strength, because your grandfather having the strength to trust his son to send him to and integrate into an all-white school, that's scary enough as it is, but that shows strength. And then your father then passing the strength on to you, and so now you're passing it on to your kids. So it's just a trickle-down effect of just strength and commitment as well. There's a level of commitment that's being done, even when you saying of no, we're gonna run, even though you don't want to, Monday fun day type of run, type of thing. So I think that's really impressive. And it's just showing the strength, and you said legacy. That's really what legacy is. I always say to people, because I lost my grandfather at a young age, and he was like a father figure to me. And I always say that we're direct representations of them. Yes, we're our own spin, but we really are a legacy. We really are passing that torch on to the next. So
that is so true.
and you doing it for your daughters. I think it's just an awesome thing. And again, even just talking to you, it's very evident just the strength that's being passed on and the passion and commitment. So I think it's just a really, really admirable quality of yours. So I want to talk about this. You were mentioning your grandfather, and you mentioned on the show that, and this is another representation of strength, that they tried to burn his church down when he was when he was did he own the church? Is that what happened? And because
So my grandfather was a pastor at a Methodist church that was deep in the woods in Mississippi, in Newton County, Mississippi.
Mhm.
And this is also a kind of crazy thing. So my great grandfather established a lot of churches within Mississippi,
Okay.
Mississippi and Alabama. Those were like two of the main states
Yep.
that my great grandfather established. So I come from a long line of pastors in my family. And he established a lot of the African American churches, specifically like African American Methodist churches within Mississippi, Alabama, and I'm pretty sure it was a couple that he also did in like Western Georgia.
Okay.
And so pretty much that whole line he established. And then my grandfather kind of took the mantle from my great grandfather, which also funny. Names were also passed down. My great grandfather's name is Alfred Douglas, and both of my brothers. My father's name is Douglas, but both of my brothers are named after my great grandfather.
Yeah.
So my oldest brother Douglas is named after my father, so he's the second. And then my brother who passed away, his name was Alfred. And so both of them, they got the names of my great grandfathers. But when my grandfather was pastoring at those churches, and you remember, like I said, they grew up in Hickory, Mississippi, on this really, nice farm, and still own the land there in the Hickory area. And he would, he was going, and this has happened more than once, but he was doing a Bible study. And if like those of y'all who are listening, the movie Mississippi Burning, it's called Mississippi Burning. It's a really old movie with Gene Hackman and I think Willem Dafoe, if I'm not mistaken. Willem Dafoe and Gene Hackman. And they were FBI agents who were trying to find out the death of the three men who were killed in Mississippi. Mm-hmm. And they ended up finding out that it was police officers who were part of the KKK who ended up. Wow. They were, so crazy story.
Is that based on like a real story?
Yeah, it's a true story. It's based on a true story.
I'm going to have to check that movie out.
It's called Mississippi Burning. And the church that they try to burn down in that movie, that's my grandfather's church.
No way.
And my grandfather at that church, they were at Bible study one like Tuesday or Wednesday night. And they were there just, fellowshipping and, reading the Bible, etc., and talking about the Bible. And then all of a sudden, a bottle, like, just like a Molotov.
Oh, a Molotov cocktail. Yep.
Wow. Thrown through the window, and bricks and cocktails through the windows. Luckily, they had, like different things to try to let down the, take down the fire and stuff. And it was just an intimidation tactic. That unfortunately, those were intimidation tactics back then.
Yep.
And luckily the church didn't burn down, but that was one scene that really scared my grandfather. And luckily none of the kids were there at that time. But my father also told me another time where he was almost run off the road, my grandfather.
Oh my
And
goodness.
He said he could remember seeing the fear in my grandfather's eyes when that happened. And he would look at the little dashboard, and he would look at him, and my grandfather would look through the little visor.
Yeah.
And he could see my grandfather's eyes. My dad could see his eyes and saw the fear in his eyes at that time. And So like just hearing that from my dad, it was so chilling for
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
because I just thought about it. I'm like, man, like so many different scenarios could have happened where my father and my grandfather could have been killed,
Mm-hmm.
and they survived. They made it through, and I'm here because of it. And so it gives you a deeper perspective
Yep.
and makes you appreciate life a lot more because it's just a lot of things could have happened. It just blows my mind that they survived living in that type of fear and intimidation and just blatant racism. And so that's why that's why I'm always very positive about things. That's
Yeah.
why I'm always nice to people because I'm like, what's the point? What's the point of putting more darkness and anger and hate into the world when I can do the opposite of that?
Yeah.
Because we all know what the opposite of darkness is light.
Yeah.
And so as long as I can try to put as much light into the world, I'm gonna do that.
I love it. That's beautifully said. And I love the stories that you're sharing about the rich lineage of your grandfather, your father. In all seriousness, like you said, we'll have to do another episode just of this because I love hearing these things, and I will definitely check out that movie Mississippi Burning because that. I mean, when you hear these stories, it's hard to us like now, in 2023. It's hard to now. Granted, there's a lot of hate crimes that happen, yes, but when you hear these things, sometimes it's hard to envision them being real. And in modern day, and so
True.
when I'm hearing these things, I'm like, whoa, I can't imagine physically living through those traumatic experiences. I can't. And luckily, I'm a person who's never, I've dealt with some, but nothing to the degree of that. So to hear these stories is just absolutely riveting. And like you said, like I have some chills just hearing you talk about them. So I can't imagine you being firsthand, listening to the people that have experienced this firsthand.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just a really really chilling experience. So thank you for sharing some of those stories. And I definitely think again, your father, your grandfather, they're just remarkable men that have helped shape you to who you are. And now I'm going to transition into you and your being a girl dad because now you're doing this with your. How special is being a girl dad and a father at this stage in your life right now?
Honestly, it is the greatest thing that has happened to me.
Yeah.
Um, I I remember the day that I found out, that we were even pregnant in general. I didn't even care. I was like, at one point I was like envisioning, I'm like, oh man, it would be cool to have a little mini me, a
Yeah.
little boy who looks just like me. But I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter to me. It just matters as long as they're healthy.
Yes.
And once that came to mind for me, I was like, oh, I don't care. I don't care. Gender doesn't matter to me. And for me now, seeing them grow up, it just, it really, again, I know I keep saying perspective, but really it is. It's like you have a whole different perspective when you become a parent.
Yeah.
And it's
It's a little.
honestly,
It's a little you.
I probably would have never done the voice if it wasn't for my children
Oh, really?
because I I gained a deeper perspective, and of course, with great therapy, I took time to work on myself even before becoming a parent, and that helped me gain a better perspective of just my life in general, and dealing with depression and seeing things from a deeper perspective on my own life.
Yep.
Um, but becoming a parent was is the best thing that has happened to me because I see a lot of the things that I do or used to do where I'm like, how did I do that? Like what was I thinking? And I look at pictures and videos. Like there was a video of me and my brother we went to Hawaii probably about 8 years ago, I think. And of course, that was a while back. I was 22 at that time. And that was like we were both cliff jumping, okay?
Yeah.
Cliff
Yeah.
jumping. And I'm just like, I cannot see in any life right now, being a parent, that I would do something that stupid again.
Yeah.
I'm like, I need to be here for my children, so I'm not taking that risk anymore.
It makes you
Even at
think.
that time, it's crazy to see too, because my brother also wasn't a parent either, and he has 4 children now,
Yeah.
and it's crazy to see, and he also started with 2 girls. He had 2 girls, and then he ended up getting twins, and then had a boy and a girl,
Oh wow.
and
I love it.
it's just crazy, because I sent the video to him a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, bro, do you even think you could see yourself doing this right now? And he was like, heck no, bro. I'm like, no, I would never do that now. I'm a parent.
Yeah, yeah. Like
And
my
so,
feet need to be on the ground. That's what they.
yeah, like my feet are on the ground, okay? Like the only time is very safely on a plane.
Yep.
Like, I'm not doing any of those type of risk taking things anymore. And so like that's what really gives me a lot of perspective now, is
Yep.
becoming a parent. And that's the reason why I did The Voice. Because I've always had a dream of being a singer, and sharing my music to the world and making people feel something, because that's the real reason why I love to sing. I love the feeling that it gives me,
Yeah.
and I love the feeling that my voice as a vessel can give to other people and make them feel. Maya Angelou, one of the greatest poets and writers of all time, said, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And that is one of my favorite quotes, because it is so true. The one thing that I will always remember, and I'll bring up one of the queen of soul herself, and I was very fortunate my time on American Idol to meet her, Aretha Franklin. And the one thing that I remember the most is one time I saw her perform, and it was when she performed at I think it was the Kennedy Honors they did for Carole King, and she came out with her big fur coat and sat at that piano, and she performed "You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman." And when she performed that song, I got chills. I have chills right now just thinking about it. And the way she sang that song, and when she stood up and just kept singing the way she did, like that when I watched that video, I was like, that's why I want to be a singer.
That outer being
That is why.
experience. Yeah.
Because that moment right there, that just the chills that I'm getting right now thinking about that whole moment, was the reason why I love singing, because I can make people feel that way. I
Yep.
can do what she did. And like, I will never be Aretha Franklin. But at the same time, I want to make people feel something.
Yep.
And every single song that I do on this show, I want to focus on that feeling,
Mm-hmm.
on the feeling of music. And um, becoming a parent really taught me to appreciate everything and appreciate life in general. And really kind of like, it's crazy how something clicks, and then you're just like, wow, life is really crazy. Like, I'm about to be a parent,
Yeah.
and like all of these things just kind of come in your head, and you start to think like, one day I'm not going to be here, and they're going to have to carry on what I taught them and teach their children, and then their grandchildren and their great grandchildren. And like, it really gives you perspective. And so that's really why I wanted to do The Voice, because I wanted to teach my children that whatever dreams you have, if there's something that you want to do, don't be afraid to do it. And on top of that, even if you have done something and you take a break from it, you can always come back to it.
Yep.
And that's definitely what I did. I was on a 6+ year hiatus. and just it wasn't that I didn't feel inspired. It was just I was so burnt out from performing and doing a lot of things all the time that I just I really needed to reflect on my own life and really honestly grieve, because I at that time I hadn't even grieved my brother,
Yeah.
because I was always busy. I was keeping myself busy and trying to do things to avoid it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it wasn't until I got into therapy and I started to really realize that I was avoiding grief
Mm-hmm.
because of the fact that I hadn't really, you know, actually thought about his death and thought about him and how he, was a part of me and what things he taught me before he passed away. And that was something that I needed to do in order to become the person that I am now, in order to evolve into the person that I am, and then be able to come back to music and be, see that perspective
Mm-hmm.
that I have now. And I'll tell the story of how the voice thing happened. Um, so I received an email from the casting department. Just, actually one of the casting people used to be on the show on American Idol. And I guess she moved from Idol to The Voice. And so she sent me a message and was like, hey, I just wanted to know if you're still doing music. I saw that, you haven't posted any YouTube videos in a long time, but I'm just, shooting it out there to see if you'd be interested in doing it.
Yeah, feeling you out
And
there.
I
Yep.
emailed her back and was like, yeah, I mean, I'm getting back into it, but not too much. I've been writing more, and really, again, becoming a parent is what got me back into music. The day I found out my partner was pregnant, I started singing "You Are My Sunshine" to my daughter in her womb,
Yep.
and I picked up my guitar and piano again and started playing music again and started feeling more inspired to go back into music. And I kind of told her, she gave me a call and I kind of walked her through, my story. And she was like, your story is beautiful. Like, why don't you tell that? Why don't you tell that if you make it onto the show? And I was like, yeah, I could, I could tell that. Then about 2 weeks passed, and it was mainly just because I was questioning myself. I was like, should I even do this? Like, I haven't performed in like 6+ years. It's been a long time. And then like plus the pandemic, all of the pandemic stuff happening, it just like made me more nervous because I was just like, yeah, but then on top of that, we have the pandemic and like I don't know. It just I started to become more reclusive
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
way. I think we all did in a lot of ways.
We did.
And
Yep.
so I was very nervous to get back out there and put myself back out there. And then my partner told me, I didn't tell her anything yet. And then probably about that third week in, it was eating at me because I was like, why am I ignoring it? Like
Yeah.
I used like the me 10 years ago would slap myself right now and be like, what are you doing? Why are you not doing this?
Yeah. You'd kick your butt
And
saying, "Come on, get a move on."
yeah, like, come on, dude, really? This is your dream. What are you doing? And like, I just kept eating at me. And then my partner, I talked to her and I was like, hey, babe, I received an email from The Voice like a couple of weeks ago. And, I've been kind of talking to them, but like, I haven't sent in, they wanted me to send in some videos, but I haven't really sent them in yet because I've kind of been nervous and like, don't really know if I can do it.
Yep.
And this is what she told me that really gave me some perspective. She said, she was like, why not? And I was like, what? Like, she was like, I mean, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
The worst that can happen is you come home and you literally come back to your family in your home. And like, it's not that you're doing something that will, catastrophically, mess up something in our lives right now.
Yeah.
So why not? Why not do it? And I looked at her and I'm like, wait, is this the same person who like tells me to be more practical? And because I'm the dreamer. I'm the dreamer. She's the more practical one. You
Yep.
know, she's a lawyer. Like that's how lawyers are.
Right.
And so
They dot their I's and
it
cross
was
their
just
T's.
like, yeah, right.
Yep.
And so for me, it was just like, wow, like this is kind of funny. Like this is crazy that she's even telling me this. So I started to look into it. I'm like, you know what? She's right. Like the worst that can happen is I come back home and I still have my, like at that time she was pregnant with our second daughter. And it was like the worst that happens is I come back home, I come back to my little girl Bella, and then we have our second daughter, and then I'm back to back to normal life as
Yeah.
usual.
You're
So
back to reality. Yeah.
exactly, and I was like, you know what, that's fine, I'm okay with that. So I emailed her and I was like, hey, I'll have the videos to you by the end of today. Yes, and this was probably around 12 p.m. when I sent that message out. And so I was like, all right, I
Gotta get
got
to
about
work.
like
Gotta get
5 hours
Yep.
to start like doing some videos. So what I did was I did a one song on the piano, I did one song on the guitar, and then I did one with an instrumental because I was like, I want to show some variety. And so I did that, sent the videos in, and then probably around 6 or 7 that night, which is probably like 5 p.m. In Pacific time since I'm in Central time. And then she emailed me the next morning and was like, "Hey, thank you for sending these because it was like you almost missed the deadline."
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was probably like a day or two deadline. And I was like, "That's crazy," first and foremost. And I was like, "All right, cool, let's get it. I'm excited." And then she emailed me probably a couple of days later after telling me that I didn't miss the deadline, and was like, "Hey, congratulations, the producers loved you. We'd love to have you on the show." And I was just like, wait, really? Okay. They're like, yeah, congratulations, you're going to do the blind auditions. And so that's, taking that risk and seeing that perspective, and really looking at my children is what brought me to today
Yep.
and being where I am. And I specifically, I was intentional in the way that I chose my blind audition song as well, because I really felt like if I was going to do this, then I needed to do a song that had a lot of history, a lot of perspective, and a lot of intentionality for the way that I am now as a person
Yep.
and the type of person that I am. And that's why I chose The Change Is Gonna Come.
And a song that has a lot of significance to you, which you did. You took the risk. And so let's talk about that a little bit. So your dad and sister were there with you. You had a 4-chair turn and a block. Okay. It appeared that they turned around pretty early. Was that just for TV or was that real?
Yeah, it was definitely before I got to the bridge of the song. I
Yeah.
do remember seeing all of them turn before I got to and I go to my brother. I remember that for sure. And so it just kind of blew my mind that, one, just getting one chair is phenomenal.
Yeah, because you're on the show at
But
that
being
point. Yep.
able to turn all four chairs and then have a coach block another person to make sure that they don't get onto their team, that was just it just blew my mind that would even happen, because there's so many factors happening at once that you're like, my goal here is just to get one chair turn.
Right,
But
yep.
then for you to like get four chairs and then to get a block, like it just kind of like, especially in that moment, it's really hard to like think about it. And
Yeah.
I remember when I turned and I noticed that Blake was blocked, because of the fact that I was so into the song, and I opened my eyes and I was about to do the really high note that I did, that and then right before the bridge, I looked and I saw Blake was blocked, and I was like, no.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, my favorite guy is blocked. No.
Yeah.
And so But at the same time, I was like, you know what? Nope. Let me focus on the song again. Don't focus on that. Let me get it out, and then I'll focus on that at the end.
Yeah.
Afterwards. And so that's what happened.
Well, despite the fact that he was
I got to
blocked,
focus on the song, and I finished it out, and then I got to like relish the moment because
yeah,
I was just like, what the heck? I just got 4 chairs. I could see my sister and my dad on the right, and I'm just like, I looked at them and I was like, oh my, did that just happen? And my sister was like, yes, it did. And then I looked and I saw Blake again, and I was like, no, Blake is actually blocked.
yeah. Well, despite the fact that he was blocked, you were still going to work with a titan in the industry, regardless of which.
Exactly, and that was the best way to see it.
Yeah,
that was the best way to see it. That regardless, all 4 of them are phenomenal artists in their own rights. And whoever I chose, I feel like I was gonna win with anyway. I was going to learn something that I didn't know.
Exactly.
And that was a hard decision too. Even getting to think about who I was going to choose in that moment, and then to have Chance do his whole shtick where he jumped on everybody's.
I know. I love
names and changed their names to him. He's like, no, you only have one choice. You have me. That's it. And but of course, there's a lot that happens even before that happened. One moment that really stood out to me was when because Niall was very interested in having me on his team. Of course, they didn't show too much of that, but Niall and Kelly fought over me for a little bit.
Oh, really? Yeah, they didn't show that on TV.
Yeah, because Niall actually, when Niall, they didn't show this part, but when Niall was talking, to try to convince me and pitch to me, he did ask me. He was like, the way that you sang that song, there's no way that you're not a songwriter and like an artist in your own right.
Yep.
And I was like, yeah, I do have a lot of songs out on my in my SoundCloud and Apple Music, whatever. I have a catalog of songs that I have not even released.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, I also have. I told him I was like, I also have a song that I specifically wrote that I sang at my brother's funeral. And this is one of the reasons why I chose A Change Is Gonna Come, to honor him as well as my father and my grandfather. And he really loved that. He was like, oh my God, like that's amazing. And honestly, it just goes to show the type of person you are. And I can tell that you're a true artist. And to hear that from him, I'm like, that's crazy. Like,
yeah.
You're freaking Niall Horan. What the heck? Like you're in one of the largest, and I am a Directioner. I'm not gonna lie. I love One Direction. Love a lot of their music. And so like to hear this from one of the guys that I like grew up listening to his music, I'm like, that's crazy. Is this real? This is real, right? And so he when he asked me that, he was like, I don't do a lot of the music that you do, but I would love for you to be on my team. And I think differences can make really make some cool things happen. And I was like, actually, I consider myself pop. I do a lot of acoustic pop music as well, like you.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, really? And it kind of piqued his interest. And then Kelly was like, I love that you said pop. And both of them were like, pop, pop, pop. They kept trying to hit on it. And
so they went back and forth.
Like,
yeah.
I'm pop too. He's like, you have to come to me. I'm like, out of all 4 of us, I'm the most pop artist. And then Kelly like turned and was like, have you seen my Billboard chart history? I'm the most pop. I'm like, I'm the most pop here on this chair and in all of these chairs. And so it was just a really funny moment. And then, Blake is just sitting there just like,
yeah, because he's blocked, so he can't do anything.
He can't do anything. He's just like, oh,
yeah.
Really?
He was,
he was just angry.
But he did do his patented finger point for you. He did do that.
He did do the finger thing. And in that moment, I was like, you know what? I got to take advantage of this because this is a once in a lifetime moment, and this is his last season that he's gonna be on. Blake, can you do the finger thing for me, please? And he did it. That's right.
Yeah,
I perfected it. Like I've been practicing it.
yeah. Look at that. You got it down.
Like, I know how to do it.
Because Niall was moving the hand. You don't really move the hand. It's really just the finger.
This.
Yeah.
He was like this. It's the finger. It's just the finger.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
But yeah, and another special moment that happened, after, Niall asked me, did I write music? It kind of really piqued Blake's interest that I was a songwriter and a singer-songwriter. And, I didn't really tell them much about my past, being a musician in my past, because, I've had the distinction and fortune, to work and, open up for a lot of different artists like Jason Mraz, Andy Grammer, Corinne Bailey Ray,
Gavin DeGraw, I think I saw
a lot of singer-songwriter artists as well.
Yep.
But I'm a performer as well, and I want to show that on the show. And so that's what I did tell them. I was like, you know what? Like, I want to show variety. Like, my intention is to find someone who's going to let me show variety on the show, who's going to let me be myself and be able to, put myself out there. And Blake, whenever I talked about, being a songwriter and showing variety as an artist and being a singer-songwriter, and telling them that I sang a song when I lost my brother, that really caught his attention, because I didn't realize that Blake also lost a brother.
Oh, I never knew that either.
He mentioned to me, he was like, I'm taking it in. I'm really taking it in this season. And he was like, my wife, Gwen, I'm like, my wife? Dude, your wife is Gwen Stefani. What the heck?
Yeah.
I know who your wife is. And he was like, my wife is, she told me, to focus on, on doing whatever I can to enhance this season since it's my last. And he was like, I also lost a brother too. And I would love to hear that song that you wrote and sang for your brother. And I was just like, wait, what? You want me to sing an original song right now? And so I got the chance. Unfortunately, that didn't show they didn't show it on the show.
Yep.
But I got to sing my original song, "Breathing Underwater," for them, for all of the coaches. And that was a very special moment for me, because the last time that I performed that song was at my first cousin's funeral, and who unfortunately committed suicide. And that was just a really dark moment for me, because he was only just a year older than me, and he struggled with mental illness. And so it just really, to be able to do it in a way to kind of put it out there so that other people can understand, what loss feels like for other people.
Yeah.
That was something that, I was very happy to do. And so I sang it. I sang "Breathing Underwater" for them, and all of the coaches stood up for me in that moment. Kelly actually jumped down off of the chair and came and hugged me.
Oh.
And then she made this whole joke about me being tall, because she didn't realize how tall I was.
Yeah.
And yes, y'all who listening, I'm very tall. A lot of people don't really know how tall I am until they actually see me in person. But I'm 6'5". I'm literally the same height as Blake Shelton.
Whoa.
I am the same height as him. And so a lot of people don't realize it. And then they're just like, whoa, you're a mountain.
Yeah.
That's what I got last time. One of the other contestants who was in the blind auditions with me, Talia, actually, and she did a phenomenal job on her audition. But she's like 5'2", I think, 5'1", or maybe even 5 feet. I can't remember exactly what she is, but there's a picture on her Instagram where we took when we were getting our clothes on and stuff, and I'm like sitting here next to her like this, and she's like this short, and she's like, she was like, I think she put in the caption, she was like, oh no, she put the song "Mr. Big Stuff." That was the song.
Oh, I love that song. Yeah. Wow.
And I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. This is a perfect moment. But it's on my Instagram because we collabed. It was hilarious. but we'll both be in the battlegrounds this week. And so yeah, just having that moment where I was able to share my artistry and share a piece of myself with them. That moment, just that is gonna stick with me for a long time. And for me to connect with all the coaches and on an artistic level,
Yep.
and then to also connect with Blake, with us both losing a sibling, that was just a moment. That was a beautiful moment, and I'm really hoping that somehow I'm able to really like. I really hope that all of us are able to do an original song on the show at some point, because I really think that enhances it. That takes it to a new level.
I think so.
Uh,
Yeah. Because there's
yeah.
a little bit more. Nothing against like artist songs, because obviously we draw inspiration. Not we. I'm
Oh,
not. I'm not a
absolutely.
singer, but you draw inspiration from that. Whereas when you're doing an original, it's yours. It's yours.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit more umph behind something like that.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
yeah, no, I think that's awesome. Well, thank you for pulling back the curtain a little bit and sharing some of those stories.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hit you with some rapid fire questions as we wrap it up. All right.
All right. Let's hear it.
So let's do some rapid fire. So true or false? You were a teacher or an educator at one point. Is that true or false?
True.
There you
It's
go.
absolutely true.
So was I.
Yep.
Look
I
at
was a so I taught first I taught middle school. I taught biology, and then I
nice.
also taught sociology and psychology.
Wow, look at that. Nice. All right. Yeah, I found that in some research, and I was like, I'm gonna ask him. All right. What is your biggest pet peeve?
Ooh, biggest pet peeve.
For such a positive guy, I feel
Um,
like that's hard for you, but we all got one.
Honestly, I would say cliffhangers. I don't like. I hate cliffhangers. I
You
hate when
do.
those shows like it's like just tell us what happens. I don't like waiting until the next week to find out if something's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like it's and then they ended up making my audition a cliffhanger, and I was like, really?
Yeah,
Like you
yeah.
all knew that
So
because you all
so
asked me.
so it's funny how one of your pet peeves they end up kind of doing for you. So it's like
Yeah, they
what
were
is
like, yeah, let's just make him mad a little bit. He'll love that.
I love it. I love it. So besides obviously any nothing music related, what's another hobby that you genuinely enjoy doing? I feel like it's a softball because I feel like you can say hanging with your kids, but is there anything that you yourself enjoy doing without not
Yeah,
music and
that
stuff?
that would be an easy one, but I want to say that because even though I'm a parent, I'm a person.
Yeah, yeah.
I love Marvel movies. I
Okay.
absolutely love Marvel movies. I love Marvel comics.
Yep.
So I am literally the first one there for every Marvel movie,
Yeah.
and I'm there. I love Marvel, so I would say watching Marvel movies
Yep.
and then also playing Pokemon
I love
because I
Pokemon.
love Pokemon.
I
I
love
absolutely love Pokemon. I've been a diehard Pokemon fan since I was 6 years old,
same.
and
Yes.
I've been playing the game since Pokemon Red. And every single time a new game comes out, I always buy it because I'm like, I have to have the nostalgia.
My first was Pokemon Crystal, but yeah,
Nice.
I
Right,
do.
Crystal's a great one.
Yeah.
Crystal's a great one.
I still love it nowadays. Yep. So I'm the same way. Um what conspiracy theory do you kind of believe in?
You know what? I'm not gonna sound like a crazy person, but this universe is very, very vast, and
Yes.
we cannot be the only species out there.
All right. Yeah,
I
that's
just,
mine
I
too.
just can't believe that. I can't believe it. Like and honestly, I feel like the government knows way more than they're putting on.
Yeah.
Like, there's just way too many coincidences that's happening now. So yeah, I believe aliens are real.
I'm the same.
I'm the same way about it.
Yep.
I'm like, yeah, I believe it. I,
Yep.
I think it's just this universe is way too big for us to be the only ones.
I agree. There's I say the same thing. I'm like we're so small. on a microscopic level. So nope,
Oh yeah, and think about that as a parent. Like that was one of the moments where it just kind of all dawned on me when we were pregnant with my first daughter,
yep,
and I was just like, oh my god, we are so infinitely small
yeah.
in this world, and there's just no way that we're the only ones here.
No, there's no possible way. No, not at all. I believe that 100%. My last thing is, where can people find you to listen to your music? Find you on the social media, that type of stuff. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so all of my social media is the same. It's Noiva, Noivas, and that's V as in Victor. Noiva Wright, Wright, because that's my last name. And it's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of the same, Noiva Wright. And then I have a website where you can see all of my social media from, and it's noiva.live. And that's all you gotta do, noiva.live. And if you all want to buy, I have shirts, I have tumblers,
Oh, you got some
all those
merch? All
different
right,
things.
I'll have to
If
grab
you
some
wanna,
then.
yeah, dude, I have a whole shop full of stuff that people can get. And then on top of that, um, the way that everything works is that I try to give back to my own community as well. So some of that money goes back to my community, and then on top of that, I have, if anyone wants to email me, like I know some people love to send fan mail and fan emails. I do have a fan email, and that's contact@noiva.live. So anyone can reach out to me, whatever, like, or you can reach out to me on my social media. It's all good. I'm again, like, look, like Nathaniel said, like I'm a very positive person, and I try to give everybody my time because I feel like we live in a world where people don't want to give their time, and they don't want to give, they don't want to give of themselves. And I'm the opposite. I like to, put a lot of light into the world as much as I can.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, I would love to have you back on after you're done with the show, because I definitely could chop it up with you a lot more. It's
Dude, I'm
unfortunate.
down.
It's
I'm down.
it's unfortunate that we're wrapping this episode up, but that does not mean that this will be the last time that I will talk to you. So I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to sit and talk with me. I would love to have you on again after your tenure on the show, because I'd love to hear the rest of the experiences that you have. You have a fan in life in me. I really appreciate you doing this and making your debut on the Reyes Reflection Podcast.
Oh man, dude, I really appreciate it, and I'm so happy to have come on and just to talk to you and learn a little bit about you too. So I'm glad to. I'm glad to come back on, and it doesn't even have to be when I'm finished. If you want me to jump on
Yeah,
anytime, dude,
I would
I'm
love.
down.
I will DM you and say, hey, let's get you back on, because I think there's still more that we got to talk about. So I'm
Hey,
definitely.
that's fine by me, man. I appreciate it, and make sure y'all watch The Voice, y'all. So this will be the last week that episodes will be on. If I'm not mistaken, yes, this is the last week that episodes will be on Monday and Tuesday.
Yep.
So it'll be 8/7 Central, or 8 p.m. Eastern, and then Tuesday will be 9/8 Central, and then 9 p.m. Eastern. And then after this week, this coming up week, then it'll be once a week. So it'll only be on Mondays, 8/7 Central and 8 p.m. Eastern. So make sure
Perfect.
y'all watch it. We're deep into battle rounds. After battle rounds is, I'm pretty sure, knockout rounds. And then after knockouts, it's the playoffs and then lives. I think that's the order, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, bam, there's the order. And I hope everyone watches. Make sure y'all stay in tune. But there's some really cool stuff happening on The Voice, and there's so many talented people.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to watch it. Again, thank you so much for coming on. That is going to do it for this episode of the Reyes Reflection Podcast. For more episodes, check me out anywhere you get your podcast and follow me on the social media at I'm Nathanael Reyes. Thank you so much for listening. And as always, may you live, may you love, and may you thrive. I'm Oprah as a dude, and I love you all.